Making movies is a very intense process. It's not an event, it's a process. Roger taught me to, even though we were in a rush to make the sun work or whatever it was, we were never rushed. If we were in a rush, it means we were moving fast by that, I mean. But we were never pushed to it. We just knew this is what we did. So Roger has given me a background in efficiency of filmmaking that made it possible for me to make my 8th motion picture, which was Easy Rider. And then my 9th, which was The Hired Hand, my first directorial. And a lot of what I did, I took from Roger.
You don't have permits. You don't have the standard issue stuff that you get with normal filmmaking. It's all done ad hoc, basically. And when you work for Roger, you generally probably are somebody who doesn't know much about making movies, because one of Roger's gifts is discovering people who really, 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 really want to make movies. And you're put in a position where basically everything is thrown at you that possibly could be to keep you from making the picture. Roger will take away your generator. He will take away your actors. He'll give you less time. Jonathan Kaplan tells a story that when he first worked for Roger, Roger gave him some advice, and it was decide how long it is to make it great. Decide how long it'll be to make it good, and then decide how long it'll be to get an image, and go for the image.
The people that have worked for Roger, who have basically gone through the Roger Corman boot camp and training, and then moved on to larger films and different projects, and have brought that Roger Corman school of thought and training and expertise and creative puzzle solving to the rest of the industry. I mean, I don't know if we'd be looking at Avatar today without Jim Cameron having been influenced by Roger Corman.
He saw that there was a possibility of getting fresh talent, fresh perspectives, fresh visions from young people to create movies that would be different from movies that most people were used to seeing, that might be better. And so people were given an opportunity to show what they could do. And the best of them showed that they could do pretty great stuff. And they did. And when they were able to achieve things with Roger, Roger would always say, if you do a good job on this picture, you won't have to work for me again. And then the best graduates from the Roger Corman Film School are those individuals, many of which you know, who have gone on to do tremendous work outside.
We all had this thing we have learned from Roger. Efficiency, be pleasant, be always up, don't be down, don't drag everybody down, because we have to move fast and we don't want an anchor of lead that we're trying to drag along with us. I say we because we always felt that we were a company working for Roger. We were a group of people who were trying our best to get to a certain moment, which is cut, that's a print, that's this scene, moving on.
Roger seems to have an unerring eye for people who are desperate to make films and will do anything to make the picture a little bit better. I know a lot of cases where people would stay up nights and come in on Sundays, and Roger would say, nobody works for me on Sunday. But if it took coming in on Sunday to make the picture just a little bit better, then people would do that.
What I learned from Roger was how to gain what I would call a maximum of effect with a minimum of means, and that's something he was very good at, and it was something that stood me in very good stead in my career, if you want to call it, later. You
wind up doing a lot more on a Roger Corman movie than you would on any other movie. Most movies you kind of go, okay, I'm doing makeup on this, and you do makeup. Roger Corman, well, you do makeup, you help the wardrobe guy over there, you pull the things for the effects guys, whatever it is. Everybody. It's much more of I won't say a family effort, but it's certainly a cohesive effort. Everybody's doing whatever they can to get through this incredibly tense production.
He'd let you pretty much do anything you wanted to do. You could be the sound department, you could work in the camera department, as long as you worked for $200 a week and as long as there was some level of organization to it, and if you were responsible and showed up on time, you could end up directing a movie for him, which is exactly what happened to me. So you just learn every aspect of the movie business, and it's a shame because there's no one really left like Roger in the business now who does that. I mean, you have USC Film School and NYU Film School, but those are kind of corporate factories turning out, hundreds of dozens of filmmakers who end up working in video stores. With Roger, you actually had hands-on experience, and I knew that. And, I had a lot of friends coming out of Yale who went to NYU and USC, and I was like, forget it. I'm going to go work for Roger Corman. I think it was the best decision I ever made, because not only did I learn the business, but I made incredible contacts there. I met Peter Bogdanovich, who ended up mentoring me.
I can't think of a better way to have gotten into the picture business than through the Roger Corman Guerrilla School of Filmmaking. It taught me an awful lot about how to make pictures with no means at all, except guts and talent.
We felt true to the Corman vision, and we wanted to work so hard. And we were also young. We were in our teens and our early 20s, and we really believed in what we could do, and that's how filmmaking should always be, and it isn't.
We've tried to do something a little bit different from the mainstream, and very often we've succeeded. And the fans, the audience, has stayed with us. I think they understand, or understood and still understand, that we were trying with our limited resources to do something different, and I don't want to say revolutionary, maybe evolutionary. We were trying to advance filmmaking to a limited extent, and I think the fans have understood that.
He was one of the pioneers of independent filmmaking and got a lot of people started in the business. He helped Jack Nicholson, of course, get a good start. And it was his films were like a school for a lot of actors and directors.
The Corman Film School is really just it's learning the process, learning how to get the movie made, and it is, I think, actually more effective for producers than it even is for directors. I mean, he does give directors he lets them go. He gives them a modicum of instruction, and he watches what they do. But as far as producers, I mean, the producers actually get more out of Roger, I think, than the director, because they sit and they hear him, and they see him make deals. He gives them these impossible tasks that they have to make, and it's a tough school.
Coming out of film school, to be thrown into that kind of laboratory was probably the best experience ever, for any filmmaker, because you get to deal with the business of it. And obviously, when you're in film school, you're meeting with. I mean, when I was at the American Film Institute, we were meeting with Bertolucci and Coppola, and they talk about their own movies, but it's absolutely not reality. As you get thrown into Roger Corman Film School, it's complete reality. So it's up to you then to then kind of learn that reality and then adapt it to your own style later as a filmmaker.
Working for Corman, that was the big break. It wasn't Star Wars. It was working, on Piranha with Joe and John for Roger. And like so many other people, it was just our first foot in the door of theatrical filmmaking.
What I got out of the Corman experience was the insight into storytelling, into being able to say, I know this is in the script. Is it really what the story's about? Is it what the scene is about? And I learned that to tell a good story, you have to at least be able to distill all the elements in a script and in a scene to the minimum of what it's going to take to tell the story. The rest, you can embellish it as much as you like, but if you don't have those main elements, then you've missed the mark. And so it was really a good, I was sort of like the fly on the wall, learning all these great little techniques for cheating how to tell a story and how to, dub the critical lines over somebody's, over the shoulder shot. And so there was a lot of great filmmaking techniques and basic understanding that I learned in a very short period of time working for Roger.
the learning curve that you experience working on these films, you find a way to work within your comfort zone, to find solutions in order to create the items that are going to be needed, and the problems. The problem solving creates a situation where you don't feel like your creativity is stifled. In a way, your creativity is actually forced to come to the forefront.
When you are under a gun like that, it can pay off because you reduce everything to its simplest form. You reduce everything from script to performance to prop construction to makeup to sets, lights, costume. Everything comes down to a simple core, and that's usually all you need.
People often say that working for Roger gives them a certain expertise that they can bring along in the future. It doesn't necessarily help your resume, but it definitely does give you the opportunity to learn how to work with very little money.
Not all of my experiences with Roger were happy ones, especially in any kind of an issue where there was any kind of dollar sign involved. But I have to say that, and I mean this from the heart, and I can't express in stronger terms the gratitude that I feel for Roger giving me the opportunity to actually make movies. I mean, that was something I couldn't have gotten anywhere else, and I'll be forever grateful for that.
One of his greatest talents was making very small amounts of money seem impressive. I mean, he would say, "I will pay you $100." And you would sit there and think, $100? Took me $10 just to get across town to come over here and see him.
It's true that I did get people very often to work for me for less money than they were getting elsewhere. Part of it, I think, was the enthusiasm that I had. I always believed in my films, and I would talk to various people, actors particularly, and let them know that even though this was a low-budget film, I was taking it seriously, I was trying to do good work, and I wanted to work with them as a joint working combination to do something good.
People who work for Roger have gone the limit to make the best possible women in prison movie that you could make. And there have been some other people, not many, but some, who regarded working for Roger as kind of slumming and as a sort of a come down, and didn't really knock themselves out to do a good job on the movie, and thinking that they were saving themselves up for their magnum opus, which never came because their inability to make a terrific junkie movie meant that they didn't get to make any more movies at all. And if you look at the just sheer size and number of people who have gone through the Roger Corman matriculation, you'll see that it's basically the backbone of the industry as it is today.
I didn't have that much involvement with Roger directly. He was sort of the head of the mafia, the head of the group that ran the whole place. I mean, he was the grandfather of the whole company. So he ran the place. But my day-to-day dealings were with the individual filmmakers that I was working with. And Roger had to give his blessing to everything. So there'd be a screening for Roger once a week.
I recently renewed our relationship by working again for Roger for the first time in 30 years on a webisode series that we did called Splatter, in which it was sort of like going home and visiting your parents again for me, because it was as if nothing had changed. It was as if I told Julie Corman, I said, it's like it's still 1978 somehow here. And it was because working after you've been out in the real world and then coming back and working in the Corman School again, it is like going back to 8th grade.
The people that came out of that workshop have gone on to lead very illustrious careers. I mean, you're talking the history that Roger Corman has built, beginning with, Martin Scorsese and Jack Nicholson. And, I mean, gosh, everybody in the world, I think, at one point has worked for Roger Corman, at least anybody that's got any weight in this industry. And there's something to be said for that. And that something is that Roger has always had an eye for talent. He knows talent. He knows good scripts, he knows good directors, and he knows good actors. And he knows how to get the most bang for his buck. So he will always have a key element in every project that he does that rises above the rest and defines a Roger Corman movie as a Roger Corman movie.
He's like that boy I met on the first picture. He's just a young guy. He's never going to get older. He's a fine man.
Roger had this way of really empowering young people. He didn't micromanage. He would have a vision of what he wanted. Everyone was set to task. You knew you were supposed to work till you dropped. Nobody complained on set. Everybody worked way over the number of hours you're supposed to work. We worked around the clock. When the unions would come and talk to us, we would lie. And everybody was thrilled to be there. I was never on a set that was quite like that again. This sense of joy and hard work and a belief that everybody was going to have the opportunity to really show what they could do. He believed in us and he empowered us. And he took a gamble on so many young people who had absolutely no resumes.
He's always given people a chance, and sometimes just blind chance, like with me. He didn't know if I could direct anything or write anything. I'd written for Esquire. I directed in the theater. He just said, go ahead. And I did all right, so he gave me more to do. I did all right, so he gave me more to do. If I hadn't, he wouldn't have.
I have a great deal of gratitude to the young filmmakers, the writers, the directors, the actors, the producers, cameramen, and so forth, who started with me and worked with me. I think I helped them a little bit in their career, and they, in turn, helped me. I think it was a reciprocal arrangement, and I think we are all the better for it.
Gather the most talented group of young people you can. You give them a specific job to do in a very intensive environment and let them create and innovate and prove what they can do. And until their genius shows, you make sure that they're on their mark, that the lighting is on their face, and that they don't flub their lines, and hope that they make the final cut. And that's the school of Roger Corman.
Roger was a real smart man. And he knew that if you got young and hungry people, they would work themselves into the grave. And luckily, being young, it didn't quite turn out that way. But we wouldn't think anything about working through the night, working through the day, and doing it again if necessary.
That's the way he works. It's sink or swim. In other words, he throws you in the water and says swim. And if you don't, you drown. And then he doesn't use you again. And if you swim, it's fine. Maybe he's happy.
Roger sees that he can afford a context for these people and for their imagination and give them a shot. Doesn't cost him very much money, so he doesn't have to spend a lot of money on talent, directorial talent, for example. And by the way, below-the-line talent, too. Most people in his crews are, haven't got a lot of credits behind them. So it's an opportunity for everybody to excel. Now, everybody wants to do a great job, so they work very, very hard and are willing to get by on little or no sleep and very little money.
The pay wasn't really an issue since there wasn't much at the time. And I think the work that I did on Piranha was mainly because it was an opportunity to learn a little bit more, a learning experience, learn a little bit more about my craft in the industry. When I had come off of the Star Wars, I was an animator, and on Piranha, they gave me an opportunity to basically get behind a camera.
Whenever you have a situation where money and time are an issue, it can be difficult. You have to make artistic decisions and perhaps build things differently than you would like for your career to be remembered by, but it usually makes them functional. Again, simplicity. It brings everything down to the most simplistic terms, the most simplistic mechanisms. Try to put the best artistic canvas on it you can. Is that difficult? It is when you're new, but in years of hindsight, it sharpens you. It makes you reduce things down to what matters?
My films have generally been low budget, sometimes very low budget. I will generally work quickly and go to maybe 2, 3, 4 takes. There's a legend that I print the first take. I have occasionally printed the first take, but generally I feel that even though we're working quickly, there's time to go through it 2, 3, maybe 4 times to give the actors breathing room, to give the actors to develop a little bit during the takes before I print.
Roger was major into being efficient with time, very efficient with time. So you come to the set prepared. You are ready to do it in 1 or 2 takes and never worry. So you have to be so prepared that if it's the first take, you know you hit it, or you did your best to hit it. And that's a great lesson. That's a great structure to start with. Because you might go later on and make a show with some other director. And if you're not prepared, it may take you 20 takes. And I've been with an actor who's taken 19 or 20 takes, and I've wondered, what didn't they understand? And then it way in the back of my head, this could have been 15 films later after I'd worked with Roger. I said, oh, yeah, he doesn't understand the Corman theory.
One of the things Roger said to me, he says, don't ever say, when you get a shot and you print it and you're finished with it, don't ever say, now let me see, what should we do now? You must right away go, okay, print, we're over here. And you're right into the next setup. And he's right. Because everything sort of sags. As the director isn't on top of his game, the whole production sort of sags. So I did that. I've always done that too. Okay, great, print, we're over here.
You're not sitting around waiting. And you're not doing take after take after take. You know, you're shooting in an economic fashion and facilitating getting the work done as quickly as possible. Studios should take note.
In the beginning, he was underrated. Today, people talk about Roger as the inspiration for all independent filmmakers. How many careers he started. How many great talents he has recognized. And even though I kidded before by saying he would take them because they didn't cost any money, he would recognize their talent before he would hire them. Roger basically set the parameters and the beginnings of the entire independent film industry as we know it today.
Generations of film fans have grown up knowing, being aware of Roger's films, appreciating them, both initially and with a sense of nostalgia. Now it's like going back and looking at the stuff he did in the 50s. It's just kind of like, it's really cheesy, it's really cheap, but I really still like watching those movies.
With Roger's movies, there's always something that's kind of gives it the upper echelon of low-budget cult movies. It divides itself from the pack. And I think that the way that he does that is that he always finds good scripts. At the end of the day, the movies always make sense. They're always good scripts. There's always a story that you can follow. It's not just trash. Yes, there's trashy elements to it, of course.
His filmmaking was really what people call a B movie, but I believe it was an art form, a Roger Corman art form. And I don't think anybody can really duplicate that today. And of course, the people who have gone on to great, great careers because of Roger's wanting to get great talent for very little money, so they accepted it and they said, this is my first chance, I'm going to go for it.
The world of Roger Corman and that kind of filmmaking, the sort of horror movie or B-movie world, is really a bygone world. And does not exist anymore, which is unfortunate. But now everything is run by studio and is much more expensive, and the attitude towards filmmaking is much, much more serious because the costs involved are much, much higher. And I think very wistfully of how I started and when I started and Roger's way of filmmaking.
he reminds people, I think, of the old days when pictures began, when it was all kind of a gypsy kind of life, you know, and everything was sort of off the cuff and being made up as you went along. And it's a pioneering kind of spirit. And Roger was a pioneer of the kind of films that he made, and the kind of giving people a chance, giving talented people a chance, giving people a chance, period. And if the talent's there, it'll prove itself. If it isn't, he didn't lose much.
I intend to make quite a few more films, and I know I'll be able to do my best because of the 2 films I made with Roger Corman. And thank you, Roger, because that's a gift no other director has given me.
He's a wonderful, wonderful filmmaker, and he's influenced a lot of people, and thank God for Roger Corman.